All right, let's jump right in. And today we're cracking open the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine.
Yeah, always a fascinating one.
For a glimpse into ancient Chinese medical wisdom. And we're going to be focusing specifically on Chapter 40.
That's right, Chapter 40, which is all about abdominal ailments.
And let me tell you, some of these ailments and their proposed remedies, I mean, they're truly mind-boggling.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're talking drum distention, chicken dropping concoctions, and a whole lot more.
It's quite a journey back in time to see how they approach these things.
It really is. And so let's dive right into the first case here.
Okay.
The Yellow Emperor describes a situation where someone feels so full they can't eat by evening after eating in the morning.
Right.
And his physician, Qi Bo, calls this drum distension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a pretty vivid image, right?
Yeah, you can really picture that.
You can, and get this, the prescribed treatment.
This is where it gets good.
Is a fermented liquid made from chicken droppings.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, before anyone listening jumps out of their seat and runs to the chicken coop.
Yeah.
It's crucial to remember that we're not endorsing this treatment.
No.
Just exploring the historical context here.
Right.
This remedy likely reflects the ancient Chinese practice of using readily available natural ingredients to address what they believed were imbalances in the body.
I mean, it makes you wonder if there was some observation, about chickens and digestion.
Yeah.
That led them to this particular remedy.
Right, exactly. Like, what were they seeing?
Yeah.
And this brings us to, I think, a key takeaway about traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, which is that your diet isn't just about calories.
Right.
It's about balancing energies to prevent blockages, like drum distension. They believed that imbalances in what you consume could directly disrupt the flow of qi.
Okay, now explain that a little bit, the qi.
Yeah, so qi is this vital energy that flows throughout the body, and it's responsible for all sorts of functions, organ function, mental clarity, all of that.
Gotcha.
So when they talk about blockages of qi,
right,
they're talking about disruptions to that flow.
Okay.
And they believe that food could directly impact that.
That's a very different way of thinking about food than we're used to today.
Oh, absolutely.
So on to the next mystery.
Okay.
The emperor describes a patient with a whole bunch of symptoms. Foul smell, spitting blood, dizziness, the works.
Wow.
And Qi Bo diagnoses this as blood dryness.
Interesting.
And here's the kicker. He links it back to significant blood loss during the patient's youth.
Okay.
Possibly even from an injury. So this highlights, I think, a really fundamental principle of TCM.
Yeah.
A holistic view of the body's entire history.
That's right.
They believe that past events, could have a lasting impact on your present health.
Yeah, they weren't just looking at what was happening in the moment.
Right.
They were looking at the whole timeline of a person's life.
It's like your body keeps a record of everything it's been through, even from childhood.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Wow. And for this particular case, the prescribed remedy is a mixture of fish bones and bramble root taken with abalone broth.
Right.
Okay. I'm officially intrigued. Fish bones and bramble root.
Yeah.
What's the logic behind that?
So in TCM, specific ingredients were chosen for their energetic properties. They believed that fish bones and bramble root, when combined with abalone broth, could restore balance and replenish the body's vital substances.
So it's not just a random concoction.
No, very intentional.
Each ingredient is carefully selected for its perceived ability to nudge the body back into equilibrium.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, this next case gets really interesting.
Okay.
The emperor describes swelling in the lower abdomen. That seems to spread everywhere.
Okay.
Qi Bo calls it latent obstruction,
Uh-huh.
which we can think of as a hidden blockage,
Right.
where pus and blood accumulate outside the intestines, creating, pressure and discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Kidogo issues a pretty serious warning.
Right.
He says that treating this condition through pressing could be fatal.
Yeah, this is really important because it highlights a key principle in TCM,
Okay.
which is avoiding forceful interventions. They believe that the body has an innate wisdom.
Okay.
And that trying to force a solution could do more harm than good.
So sometimes the best course of action is to observe.
Right.
understand and work with the body's natural healing processes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rather than aggressively intervening.
Trusting the body's wisdom.
The same idea of respecting the body's natural flow of energy appears in the next case as well.
Right.
The emperor describes another instance of latent obstruction.
Okay.
But this time it's accompanied by swelling in the legs and pain around the navel.
Interesting variation.
So what's the explanation for this variation?
So Kibo attributes this to wind as a pathogenic factor. In TCM, wind can disrupt the flow of qi,
Right.
leading to a variety of symptoms depending on where the disruption occurs.
So wind isn't just a weather phenomenon.
No.
It's a force that can affect our internal balance as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And once again, Shibo warns against disturbing this obstruction, saying it can lead to urinary problems.
Yeah. So again, being cautious.
Right.
Not intervening in a forceful way.
That's fascinating. It really underscores how interconnected all the bodily systems are in TCM.
Absolutely.
A blockage in one area can have far-reaching consequences.
Right. It's not just isolated to one spot.
Right.
It's all connected.
Okay, now we come to what sounds like a bit of a debate.
Okay.
The emperor questions Chivo's advice against rich foods, fragrant herbs, and mineral medicines for people with what they call heat imbalances.
Right.
He points out that these are things wealthy people who could afford the best care would typically enjoy. So Chibo's response is quite insightful. Okay. He argues that these substances, while potentially enjoyable, can clash with the body's internal heat, potentially harming the spleen.
Okay.
So it's not about indulging in what's pleasurable,
Right.
but about choosing what's truly beneficial for your specific constitution.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is where the 5 elements theory comes into play.
Okay.
This theory proposes that everything in the universe, including our bodies, is made up of 5 elements.
Right.
Wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Each element has specific qualities.
Yeah.
And interacts with the others in a dynamic interplay.
Right. So it's a whole system of relationships.
Okay, I'm going to need a little more explanation on this.
Sure.
How do the 5 elements relate to food and health?
So in TCM, the spleen is associated with the earth element.
Okay.
And they believe that too much wood energy, which can be found in certain herbs and rich foods,
Right.
could overpower the spleen, throwing it out of balance.
So in this case, avoiding those rich foods and herbs.
Isn't about deprivation.
No.
It's about protecting the spleen from being overwhelmed by a conflicting energy.
Right. Maintaining that harmony.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining harmony between the elements within your body.
That's the key.
Now, in our next case, we see how not just excess, but also deficiency can disrupt the body's balance.
Okay.
A patient comes in with chest swelling, neck pain, and fullness in the chest and abdomen.
Wow. So a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
And Chibo diagnoses this as rebellious cold.
Rebellious cold.
So just like excessive heat,
Yeah.
intense cold can also throw things off balance.
Absolutely.
And here's another warning. Chibo advises against using moxibustion,
Okay.
which is a heat therapy, or stone needles, because they could worsen the imbalance and even lead to aphasia or mania.
So again, really understanding the nature of the imbalance
Yeah.
and choosing treatments accordingly. It's a pretty strong cautionary tale. What does this tell us about the TCM approach?
Well, it highlights the importance of personalized treatment and timing.
Right.
In TCM, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Gotcha.
You have to consider the individual's unique constitution and the nature of the imbalance before intervening.
So it's about finding the right treatment at the right time.
Exactly.
Not just applying a predetermined solution.
It's much more nuanced than that.
This is really making me rethink how we approach health and healing in the modern world.
Yeah.
It's a much more nuanced and personalized approach than we're often used to.
I think we've gotten a little bit away from that in modern medicine.
Yeah.
But it's definitely still there in some approaches.
Absolutely.
And it's, I think, something to really consider.
Now let's move on to a question about pregnancy.
Okay.
The emperor asks how to tell if a pregnant woman is about to give birth.
All right. Yeah. The big question.
I'm curious to hear how they approach this in ancient China.
So Kibo's answer might surprise you.
Oy.
The absence of an irregular pulse. So a smooth, regular pulse.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this whole pulse diagnosis thing.
Yeah.
It seems to be a key diagnostic tool in TCM.
It is. It's considered a subtle art. In TCM, the pulse is seen as a window into the body's energy flow.
Okay.
And they believed that by feeling the pulse at different points, a skilled practitioner could detect subtle changes that indicated imbalances or shifts in the body's state.
So in this case, a smooth and balanced pulse would indicate that labor is approaching.
That's right.
Because the body's energy is flowing harmoniously.
Exactly.
In preparation for birth.
Yeah. No blockages, no disruptions.
It shows how attuned they were to the body's subtle energetic cues.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very sensitive to those things.
The discussion then moves on to fever with pain, which Qibo explains as yang entering yin.
Interesting.
Okay, so break that down for me.
Sure.
What do yang and yin represent in TCM?
So yang and yin are fundamental concepts in Chinese philosophy.
Okay.
And they play a central role in TCM as well.
Right.
Yang is associated with heat, activity, outward expression, while yin represents coolness, passivity, and inwardness.
Gotcha.
They're seen as complementary opposites, constantly interacting and striving for balance.
So when Qibo talks about yang entering yin, he's describing a disruption of this balance where the heat and activity of yang are overwhelming the coolness and stillness of yin.
That's right.
And this disruption, according to TCM, is what leads to the experience of heat and pain.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But how do they explain the location of the pain?
Right.
Like, why would yang entering yin manifest as pain in the chest versus pain in the leg?
So that's where the meridian system comes in. In TCM, meridians are channels or pathways that carry qi throughout the body.
Right.
And they believe that different meridians are associated with different organs and functions.
Gotcha.
So the location of the pain would depend on which meridian is affected by the imbalance of yang and yin.
So it's like a map of the body's energy flow.
Exactly, a very detailed map.
By understanding this map, TCM practitioners could pinpoint the root of the imbalance and develop targeted treatments to restore harmony.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is incredibly insightful.
It's a whole system, very intricate.
It's like a whole different language for understanding the body and how it works.
Absolutely.
And we've only just scratched the surface of one chapter.
Yeah.
In the Yellow Emperor's Classic.
I know. It's amazing how much is packed into these texts.
There's so much more to explore within this ancient text.
Definitely. And we're back, continuing our exploration of the Yellow Emperor's Classic.
You know, one thing that keeps striking me is how differently they viewed illness compared to modern medicine.
It really is a completely different paradigm. In the West, we tend to focus on identifying and eliminating pathogens, like bacteria or viruses.
Right.
But in TCM, illness is seen as a disruption of the body's natural balance.
Okay.
Often caused by internal factors like emotions or lifestyle choices.
It's not just about fighting off invaders.
Right.
It's about maintaining harmony within.
Exactly. And that harmony, as we've been discussing, really revolves around this concept of qi.
Right. This vital life force.
Yeah. It needs to flow freely for us to be healthy.
So it's not just about having enough qi.
Right.
It's also about making sure it's moving in the right way.
Exactly. Think of it like a river.
Okay.
If the river is flowing smoothly, everything is nourished, functioning properly.
Right.
But if there's a dam or a blockage, the water can't get where it needs to go.
Right. Problems arise.
And problems start to arise. Exactly.
So drum distention, that fullness we talked about earlier, could be seen as a blockage of qi in the digestive system.
Precisely. And the chicken dropping remedy, strange as it may sound, was likely intended to, clear that blockage and restore the flow of qi.
I mean, it's a really different way of thinking about digestion.
Oh, absolutely.
We're so used to thinking about enzymes and chemical processes.
Right, but in TCM, it's all about energy. And food, they believed, has its own energetic properties that can either support or disrupt the body's natural flow.
It makes you wonder if we've lost something valuable in our modern approach to health.
I think that's a very valid question. We've gained incredible advancements in surgery, pharmaceuticals, and technology.
Absolutely.
But we've also become somewhat disconnected from the wisdom of our bodies and the interconnectedness of all things.
And that interconnectedness is something that keeps coming up as we explore these ancient texts.
Absolutely.
It's like they saw the body as a microcosm of the universe.
Yeah, the body as a reflection of the cosmos.
With each organ and system reflecting the patterns and principles of the natural world.
The Yellow Emperor's Classic even describes the body in terms of landscapes.
Oh, wow.
With mountains, valleys, rivers, and fields.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
It really is.
For understanding how everything is interconnected.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that saying, as above, so below.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What happens within us is a reflection of what's happening in the world around us, and vice versa.
And that brings us back to your thought-provoking question from earlier,
right,
about viewing our bodies as microcosms of nature.
Yeah.
What can we learn from observing our internal landscapes in today's world?
Are we creating, dams and blockages in our bodies with our stress?
Yeah.
Our sedentary lifestyles, our processed foods?
Absolutely. It's definitely something to consider. Are we out of sync with the natural rhythms?
Right.
The day, the seasons?
Right.
Are we suppressing our emotions instead of allowing them to flow freely?
It's like we're constantly trying to control and manipulate our bodies.
Right, yeah.
Instead of listening to their wisdom and working with them.
Yeah, and maybe that's why so many people are experiencing chronic health issues today. We've lost touch with our innate capacity for self-healing.
It's not that modern medicine is wrong or bad.
No, not at all.
It's just that maybe there's a missing piece. A wisdom that we can glean from these ancient traditions.
Right, a different perspective.
A wisdom that reminds us that health is not just the absence of disease, but a state of vibrant balance and harmony.
Well said. Harmony within ourselves.
Right.
Harmony with nature. Harmony with the universe.
It's a beautiful vision.
It really is.
It's something that I think we can all aspire to.
Absolutely.
And maybe, just maybe, by rediscovering this ancient wisdom, integrating it into our modern lives, we can move closer to that vision.
I think so.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up part 2,
okay,
I wanted to go back to something we touched on earlier, the 5 elements theory.
Right.
It's a pretty complex concept.
It is, yeah.
But I think it's worth spending a little more time unpacking.
Absolutely.
Because it plays such a central role in TCM.
As we mentioned, the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water,
right,
are seen as fundamental forces that make up everything in the universe.
Okay.
Including our bodies.
Right.
And just like in nature, these elements interact with each other in a constant dance of creation, control, and balance.
So it's not just about the elements themselves.
Right.
It's about the relationships between them.
Exactly. And understanding these relationships is key to understanding how TCM approaches health and illness.
Give me an example of how this works in practice.
Well, let's go back to that case where the emperor was questioning Qibo about avoiding rich foods and herbs for people with heat imbalances.
Right.
Remember, Qibo said that these substances could harm the spleen because they contain too much wood energy.
Right. And the spleen is associated with the earth element.
Exactly. Now, according to the 5 elements theory, wood controls earth.
Okay.
So this means that too much wood energy can overpower and weaken earth energy.
So eating those rich foods and herbs would be like throwing a big log on a delicate little fire.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
It would create too much heat.
Right.
And disrupt the balance.
Gotcha.
So by avoiding those substances, you're essentially protecting the spleen from being overwhelmed by a conflicting energy.
It's like a delicate ecosystem.
It is, yeah.
Within our bodies, each element needs to be in the right proportion for everything to function properly.
And when one element is out of balance, it can have ripple effects throughout the entire system.
I'm starting to see how this theory could be used to understand a wide range of health issues.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
What are some other examples of how the 5 elements interact?
Well, another key relationship is that fire controls metal. This means that excessive heat can damage the lungs, which are associated with the metal element.
Okay.
That's why TCM often recommends cooling foods and herbs for people with respiratory problems.
So it's not just about treating the symptoms.
Right.
It's about addressing the underlying elemental imbalances.
Precisely. And that's what makes TCM so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just a system of medicine. It's a philosophy of life. A way of understanding our place in the grand scheme of things.
It's a reminder that we're not separate from nature, but a part of it. And that our health and well-being depend on maintaining harmony with the natural world.
Absolutely.
With the universe as a whole.
That's a powerful message, and one that I think is more relevant today than ever before.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive.
Wow.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But there's still more to explore.
Always more to learn.
Join us in part 3, where we'll continue our journey into the fascinating world of ancient Chinese medicine. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Yellow Emperor's classic.
Back into ancient China.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack in just one chapter of this text.
Oh, absolutely. These ideas, they run deep.
We were just talking about the 5 elements theory and all these relationships between the elements. Mm-hmm. What are some other key relationships that our listeners should know about?
Well, we talked about wood controlling earth, impacting the spleen.
Right.
Another important one is that fire controls metal.
Okay.
It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but think about how excessive heat can melt and damage metal.
Oh, okay.
So in TCM, they believe that too much fire energy can actually harm the lungs, which they associate with the metal element.
I see.
That's why they often recommended cooling foods and herbs for people with, respiratory problems.
So it's not just about suppressing a cough. It's about actually like rebalancing those elements.
Exactly. Getting to the root of the imbalance.
I see.
Another important one is that earth controls water.
Okay.
And this reflects the idea that the earth can kind of absorb and contain water.
Right.
So they believe that a weakened spleen, which is associated with earth, could lead to problems with, fluid retention.
Interesting.
And dampness in the body.
It's amazing how they observed all these patterns in nature.
Yeah.
And applied them to the human body.
It's all connected,
Yeah. So the 5 elements theory, it sounds like it's
a complex system, but it's a beautiful system, and it really helps us understand this holistic approach.
How does it help us understand it?
Well, it highlights the interconnectedness of everything, and that striving for balance and harmony is key.
It's such a different way of thinking about health.
It is.
Than we're used to in the West. Mm-hmm. We tend to think about things
much more kind of linear.
Yes, cause and effect.
Cause and effect. One thing leads to another.
Right.
But TCM takes a more holistic approach, recognizing that everything is interconnected.
Right.
And that seemingly unrelated symptoms might actually be linked by a deeper underlying imbalance.
It's like solving a puzzle. You have to look at all the pieces.
Exactly.
And how they fit together to see the bigger picture.
That's a great way to put it.
And that's why TCM practitioners spend so much time asking questions about
Yeah, it's not just about the physical symptoms.
Lifestyle, emotions, sleep patterns, all these things that might not seem directly related.
They're trying to get a sense of your overall energetic balance. Not just that specific problem that you're presenting with.
Right.
It's about the whole picture.
It's been such a fascinating exploration. I feel like I'm seeing the world through a whole new lens.
It's a paradigm shift.
It is.
But it's a valuable one, I think, in a world that's increasingly, fast-paced and fragmented. Right. TCM offers this reminder, I think.
Of what?
Of the importance of, slowing down, listening to our bodies.
Right.
And seeking balance in all aspects of our lives.
That's a beautiful message to end on. But before we go, I want to revisit that final thought-provoking question we posed to our listener.
Oh, yeah, about the microcosm of nature.
Yes, we asked them what they can learn from observing their internal landscapes in today's world. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, based on everything we've discussed, what are some concrete steps our listener could take to cultivate more balance and harmony in their lives?
Well, I think one of the simplest things, but also one of the most profound things, is just tuning in to our body's natural rhythms. Are we getting enough sleep?
Right.
Are we eating nourishing foods? Mm-hmm. Are we spending time in nature?
Yeah, the basics.
The basics, but they're so foundational, especially from a TCM perspective.
It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and neglect these fundamental needs.
And yet when we do that, when we ignore those signals, it's like we're creating those dams and blockages in our qi flow.
Exactly.
And over time, that can lead to imbalances and health issues.
So paying attention to our bodies isn't just self-care.
Right.
It's almost like preventative medicine.
Exactly.
Catching these things, these imbalances, before they even arise.
Absolutely.
Another key step, I think, is cultivating awareness of our emotions.
That's a big one.
In TCM, emotions are seen as very powerful forces that can have a profound impact on our health.
Yeah, they can get stuck,
And when we suppress or ignore them, they can become trapped, create blockages.
It's not about being overly emotional.
Right.
It's about finding healthy ways to process and express our feelings.
Journaling, talking to a therapist, engaging in creative pursuits.
Exactly.
Just finding outlets.
Yeah, let it flow.
Those emotions is crucial for maintaining that balance.
It's not about suppressing. It's about flowing.
And finally, I think it's important to remember that healing is a journey, not a destination.
That's so true.
There's no, magic pill or quick fix.
No, it's about, gradual and sustainable changes that support our overall well-being.
It's about the process.
It is, and it's a rewarding process.
Yeah.
As we deepen our understanding, we become more empowered to make choices that support our health and vitality.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dives.
Into ancient China.
Into the mysteries of ancient Chinese medicine.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. If you're intrigued by what you've heard today, we encourage you to delve deeper into the world of TCM.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
There's a treasure trove of wisdom waiting to be discovered.
Keep those minds curious.
Keep those bodies balanced.
And we'll catch you on our next deep dive.
See you next time.